Welcome back, Black Magic TV. It's the 1 year anniversary. I got some microphones now, so I won't sound like shit, even though you can probably hear my air conditioner, because we're definitely in the basement of my house. But
we're not in the basement. I thought this was a high-end studio downtown.
it is a high-end studio. It just is located in my basement. Or my lair. This is the lair.
There you go.
But with me today, I have a man who some of you probably recognize if you've been watching, Mr. Eric Myers. My first guest, my longtime compadre.
Kind of like the Mr. Green Jeans of Mr. Rogers'
Yes.
neighborhood.
You're like Don. You're my Don Knotts. Like you come over in a leisure shoot, acting semi-pervy.
Yeah. Well, not quite leisure suit.
Even though you got a bong shirt on.
Tyler, these are not bongs. These are water pipes.
Oh, okay. You don't have to say that anymore.
Oh.
How many head shops do you think we've been kicked out of for saying the word bong?
All of them.
A lot. There's a couple what's that place that Kaz used to go to all the time? That DB, was it DB Cooper's? No.
I can't remember.
On Main Street.
Yeah.
I used to always get thrown out, and I'd have to wait outside because I said bong.
Tyler, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. Eric's totally unaware. It's legal now, dude. You can talk about it.
Yeah, but I might be running the loader again.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well,
a year has gone by.
1 year has gone by since we sat on the dock with the guy on the motorcycle that kept cruising around us.
Yeah. Time goes by too fast, man.
And since that time, you've destroyed your car 4 different times. Well, not destroyed it, but you definitely... What did you have to do? Drive shaft?
Oh, I didn't know which car you meant.
The gold car.
I destroyed my square car a lot.
Mm-hmm. Eric has more collisions on his daily driver than I think.
I take good care of my old stuff. It's the new stuff that gets abused.
Yeah, you had what, like 5? 4? How many times has that Challenger been in the body shop?
It's pristine.
But it's never been.
It's all
not like
it's,
how many times has some kid ran a row of shopping carts into the side of your car in a parking lot,
and then just left?
And just left.
And he worked there. Good times.
Yeah.
Like, lots of things happen in a year.
But what happened with the gold car? You had the with the Chevy.
I put a split shaft in it.
Right. That's right. Because we lowered it.
Right.
Crazy.
That and wired up some more of the lighting and stuff. Just got done putting a new carb on it, so I think I'll head that over to the coffee.
Gearheads and Grounds at the Java Garage.
Plug.
You can't go this month, but you can go every second Saturday.
Right. Well, cool.
Yeah, and then you got the Ford. The Ford, you did a bunch of. You got trim and glass, and we did Eric's fender skirts for that thing.
Yeah, those are supposed to. The spears are supposed to be here this
cool.
weekend, so hopefully that'll happen. But
what? I mean, there's a whole lot that's happened in the last year, really. We got a lot of events coming up. We got. You don't Greaserama anymore, really, but Greaserama's coming up.
Yeah.
We got the Rumble Drags coming up, which that seems like that's going to be stacking up to be a pretty cool. I've seen a lot of people from out of town posting about it, so it seems like that might go off, especially after last year when it fucking rained and like.
I don't get to see those posts no more.
Oh yeah, Eric's not on social media.
I don't even have internet at home.
Yeah, no home internet.
I don't have cable. I've become an old crotchety guy.
The old crotchety man now.
Yeah, I still just write letters, no email.
Well, you Instagram.
Yeah, no, I do Instagram, but that's much more simplified.
Yeah, I like Instagram better. Fucking shit.
Oh, see that?
Just light.
Yeah,
I'll be writing a strongly worded email to the Nearer Corporation.
I could send a letter.
Yeah, could you send a
I
letter?
gotta go get some stamps. So what? Today we're gonna talk about music, huh?
Yeah, we could talk about. Let's talk about music. I wanted Eric to come on. Every time we already know all about Eric. We know he's a hillbilly at heart. He grew up around mining. We know all about Eric. He's been a
Yeah.
hot rodder, an artist. But when I first met you, well, the first time we hung out was in Salina. Like we had hung out. The first day I met Eric, I've told this before. I lied to him and told him and Dave I knew how to chop the top on a car, and then I went down and spearheaded chopping the top off of a car that he owned, and I left there going, Jesus Christ, if I don't fix this, these guys are gonna fucking not talk to me.
Probably the most simple chop you can do.
It was
though,
the most
but-
simple one we could do. It wasn't
Yeah.
even that hard. And then from there, we didn't. It wasn't that long. It was that summer when we all went to Salina, and I went with Johnny.
Right.
And me and Johnny, everybody else was like, had jobs for a while. They had money. They had enough money to go on to me, that was a vacation, even though it was 2 hours away from Kansas City.
Right.
But it's like Johnny and I left. We had enough money for 1 tank of gas. We had no food. We had no drugs. We had no beer. And when we got there, Todd came up to us and he rode to when we got there, we didn't have any gas, and Todd took us to a gas station and filled Johnny's gas tank up while everybody else was going to eat dinner. And he's like, and I guess I'll buy you guys dinner too. And we're like, okay.
That was after. Well, that was during the time that I was a traveling salesman,
Yeah.
and I had all those points from Holiday Inn,
Right.
like 20 years worth of points.
Yeah.
And I would and I cashed in. Remember, I got us all rooms at the Holiday Inn.
Yeah, I do, because that's when we stayed.
We didn't
with
have to pay
whiskey.
for a room. Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't have to
Yeah.
pay for a room. And then I kept trying to buy weed off people all weekend. And then you were like, you took me in your car, and I didn't know that you smoked weed. And then you pulled out this. Eric handed me this little cylinder. Fuck, this was damn, dude. I was 23, so this had been 17 years ago. Maybe I was 22. It was 23. 17 years ago.
I was what, 41?
Yeah.
40? Yeah.
And Eric hands me this little deal, and I'm like looking at this, I'm like, oh, cool, dude. And I'm like, yeah, cool. He's like, no, open it, you moron. And I'm like, I open it, and there's a joint in there. So we got stoned, and then Eric basically hasn't been able to get rid of me since then.
No.
But that was a great weekend that first time. Johnny and I broke down. We broke down in that shitty Buick he had on the way back just outside of Topeka, and we pulled off the highway because it started running like a dog. Like there was like drops in cylinders, and we pulled off the highway, and we pulled into the parking lot of that porno store that was right off 70. And I shit you not, dude, no exaggeration, every friggin' guy that pulled into that place, it's like a Sunday night, I guess it would have been.
Yeah.
And every dude that pulled in there knew Johnny. Johnny, what's up?
Well,
Johnny, how you doing? And I'm
Of
like, bro,
course
why do
they
you
did.
know all these perverts, man? But from there, I started hanging out with Eric. I'd go to his house, and he had this like, it's so funny to say, but you had the like most bitchin' CD collection.
Yeah.
But Eric he knew I was into garage rock, and he had all this weird shit that I had never heard of, I'd never seen, and then he started turning me on to music. And then I started a fucking band, and then I became a drug addict.
It was weird you'd say as far as CD collection, but when my first wife, when I got divorced, that sounds terrible when you have numerous. You got to pick which one.
Yeah.
But before I moved out to Colorado, I went up to my buddy's record shop and I sold all my records so that I could have cash to go out there my bicycle collection. I sold that all, but I had enough to go out there and put money down on a house, so I can't complain. But man, there's some stuff I got rid of that it's like I'll
You
never
wish you
see
had it
again.
back, yeah.
Bootleg vinyl stuff and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And so then at that time, because that would have been, the 90s, but records weren't making the comeback, and it was so convenient to have a compact disc. And at that time it seemed so clear because you never heard a pop on a vinyl like you would on a vinyl disc or album. But now to bring that back, you hear so much more depth in the sound, and it just seems so much more pure than it does anything that's digital art, whatever. But no, it was kind of cool because when you called me and said that, and you said I need to pick out 5 albums.
Yeah.
Man, I went over it because my record collection is nothing as to what it was, but
Right.
I've been able to collect stuff, and that's all I every once in a while, as you know, I've got some great stuff on CD. I break that out, but I've still gone back to listening to vinyl. And the thing is with a record, the other thing that people don't realize is I don't want to say that you're forced, but you listen to at least a whole side of an album.
Right.
Where today your Spotify, your whatever, you've got it on shuffle, and you may know a band for just one song.
Yeah.
But then also it's like everything as far as relating to 45s and the B-sides. And so much music never got air
Right.
on a B-side, but then you flip it over and it's like, holy shit, what is that?
Yeah.
It's something completely different. So when you told me to pick 5 albums, it was really wild. I sat down from my collection. I'm like, all right, do you focus on what are your favorites? Do you focus on, I go, but the thing is what my favorite is this month will be different next month.
Right.
It all depends on the mood. You sit there and some of the greatest stuff is old outlaw country music. If you want to listen to lyrics, what's that saying? When you're happy, you listen to the music. When you're sad, you listen to the lyrics.
Yeah.
And so do you pick favorites because of...
Wait, does that mean I'm always sad?
Well, the last 4 years, I listened to a lot of lyrics. I'll put
Yeah.
it that way. But no, I mean, that's all I'm saying. I really got thinking about it. And then I sat there and I said, 2 years ago, I had my heart surgery, and I don't know. Well, we've both gone through some of that shit.
Yeah.
But it was like that night that I had my surgery, one of the things I did was I just went through my memory banks and tried to remember as much as I could. But then I also went on my phone and just listened to music.
Yeah.
And it was like, and there was stuff that totally moved me. There was stuff that made me happy. But when you told me to pick out 5, I thought I was doing good, and I looked down and I had 25 albums on the ground.
Shit. Yeah.
And I'm like, because each one of them had something that meant
Right.
something. But then I started thinking, and I was like, well, what are albums that, like I was just saying, that I can put on and listen to the whole album
Okay.
and not be like, man, I like that one song,
Right.
So I sat there, and then I weighed it down. And then I even because I started thinking, in a month I'll be 57. And you think about life in the past a lot more, but I was like, what albums were monumental for me, but yet weren't mainstream? Something that was just a little bit different. So I picked out 5.
Yeah.
Some people will be like, what the hell is that?
Well, yeah, and that's the
It
whole
is.
thing. Like, it's not only like you were saying, like it'll change from this month to next month, but also dude, I had to take a break from I listened to that fucking gacked out on anger so many times that
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought I was about to like murder someone, dude. I
Sure.
caught myself like somebody like tried to start some shit with me, and I've been like trying not to engage in those activities for a long time, and I
Sure.
realized I was like, yo, I gotta chill. I need to switch it up a little. Like sometimes you
Sure.
gotta switch it up, but it also the music kind of like people don't really realize like cars in general, music is a big thing with it. It doesn't matter what kind of car you're into. Like every culture of car has its like music that go. It has a soundtrack that goes with it. Like
Sure.
so in 2006, you know, the soundtrack to our like scene was it here was like get gearhead rock and roll, like legitimate, like
Oh, yeah.
Zeke. But every
yeah.
rock and roll band from Kansas City at the time, the Throttlers, Federation of Horsepower, Cretin 66,
Oh, yeah.
everything was about like cars. And
Oh, yeah.
shit.
Well, and you know that some of my selections, there's influence.
Yeah.
There, but I tried to pick for my last 56 years
Right. And
something that was a different.
and there's some things like we know Eric and I we know everything there is to know about each other for the most part. Like
You haven't seen that one mole I have.
Yeah, but when it comes to music and things like that, he and I both got back into vinyl at the same time here recently, and like, so we go around and buy records and we talk about them, and like we're gonna go see Queen. Eric actually surprised me. He got us tickets to see Queens of the Stone Age, but we don't really give a shit about seeing
was
Queens of
gonna
the
say, no, I
Stone
didn't get
Age.
us tickets
We
for
just
you.
want to see the Viagra Boys who are opening for them.
Yeah.
But we'll probably stick around and watch Queens of the Stone Age because
Right.
we'll be there. But
Right.
we're gonna go see 10,000 Mods is coming. Hank
Right.
Williams IV is playing a solo show. Like, music's always been a big deal. It's like a weird thing because there was like that group of us, like when we were in the car club, that like we were it. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah,
we were
we
in the
always
world.
caught-
We were at shows.
That was a great thing as far as, well, the last 20 years I've been here. We got to see some great shows.
Oh
you know,
yeah, dude. We've
and
seen
some up-and-coming
Motorhead.
thing. But
We saw fucking Judas Priest when they played that reunion show. Oh man, we've seen so many good concerts.
there's a little bit of music that probably, you were saying as far as influenced you with anger, how you put a little Judas Priest on, you're definitely going to get a speeding ticket.
Oh, maybe it makes me feel like I should kiss a man.
I was back in the day.
Yeah.
So like when I'm in high school, take Judas Priest that everybody knows.
Yeah.
But mainstream, well, it's so funny because there's times that I would talk to punk rockers and talk about what your music scene was and everything, and it was like, oh man, the 80s were the best. We're the best. And I sat and I think about it, and at that time I was in high school in Bismarck, North Dakota. You had no way to access music except for the radio or going down to the record store and taking a suggestion
Right.
or taking a pick. But I mean, you didn't have any avenues to figure out what was what. And of course up there, your library was that much smaller.
Right.
I mean, Lawrence Welk was from there, so
Dude.
take a look at your music genre and basis back then.
What's crazy is like, not to cut you off, it just when you said Lawrence Welk, it reminds me. It's one of those dudes that like your grandma was in. My grandma was into Lawrence Welk, right?
Yeah.
But like also, I was always like, yo, what the hell is Lawrence Welk? Like who is? But then you get older and you realize like, oh, this dude was like big shit. Like he was big
Sure.
shit. And like
Sure.
he's one of those people like you go to any thrift store now, and like it's all the boomers records in there, right? The baby boomers. So you'll see. You're always gonna find an Eddie Arnold album.
Mhm.
You're gonna find a Herb Alpert album, which I watched this documentary. I didn't know shit about Herb Alpert, man. That's crazy that those dudes started a record label and like all the different music that they had put out. That's wild stuff.
You're gonna find an Engelbert Humperdinck album.
Yeah, you'll find an Engelbert, probably You used to find Johnny Horton, but not so much anymore. There's always a
Yeah.
Johnny Horton.
Yeah.
But man, music,
Cool.
it's crazy because like when you were talking about punk rock and like somebody saying like, oh, it's the best. Like to me, like yeah, that shit from the '80s is cool, but like the coolest thing was in like, you know, 1994 when I'm like learning, like ordering CDs off of the Columbia House, like get 10 for a penny thing.
Sure.
You convince your mom to do it, and then it's like you get it, and it's like all these punk albums, but it's like the shit that nobody was buying, So it's like I had like a Dead Milkman CD when I was like in like 7th grade or something, and then I'll never forget seeing some kid picking up my sister when we were like, she was in high school, I was still in junior high, and he always had on that Misfits Danzig shirt, the
Right.
one with the Elvis one where Danzig, it's like Danzig crouching, and forever I would like annoy the shit out of this dude, and he drove some shitty like Firebird or Formula One. And eventually, I like annoyed him so much that he's like, just fucking listen to it, man. And it was like the Misfits collection,
Right.
and so that like started me down that. But dude, that there's so many records I can go back and listen to now from that time, like in the '90s when I was a kid, that like people like old head punk rock dudes always shit on. I'm like,
Right.
yeah, I don't know. That No Effects record was pretty good. That Rancid record's pretty badass. Like,
Right. Well, and the thing is that world of music, you might as well compare it to the solar system as far as the stars.
yeah,
It's limitless. And the thing is so much of it, look at how much of it has been remade from earlier generation songs.
right. It's all
It's cyclical.
yeah, it all rotates.
It's the damn Crown Royal ad. you
Yeah.
know, as far, but some people, it doesn't matter whether it's a car. A car could be a classic car that somebody did something, but then they put their spin on it, and then you're like, wow, that's even cooler. I never even thought about that, but that's what a lot of music was, and it was so wild because I was in one way fortunate because I had two brothers and they were 9 and 10 years older than me. So when they're in high school, junior high, they're listening to stuff, and I'm their little brother, and they didn't seclude me out, but I'm listening to stuff that kids my age were probably like, what in the world is that?
Right.
It wasn't the Sesame Street soundtrack or anything like that, but when you were listening to, as a little kid, I was listening to Pink Floyd. I was listening to Steppenwolf.
yeah.
I gave it back to my oldest brother, who's still alive, but he had the Easy Rider soundtrack. And Magic Carpet Ride. That just like stuck in my head as a little kid. But I tell you what, man, since I'm talking about that,
Yeah, go start. Show me
No,
let's see what Eric brought to like,
it's kind of wild because
kind of like the stuff to share with everyone. What I
So
mean?
so this album, I was introduced by my middle brother. So he was 9 years older than me. He passed away 12 years ago, but the summer before my 4th grade, so that was like, this came out in 73, so 73, 74, dude, he fell in love with Radar Love. Like I heard it all the time. And so here I am, and I'd always go in his room. I don't know if I can see because all I got is prescription sunglasses. But so I'm getting ready to get in the 4th grade, and I'm having my brother jam this album.
You see that?
And that one I bought. That's one that I did hang on
So
to.
this is just for reference. It's Golden Earrings. Uh, is it called Montana?
No.
Moontan.
No. Moontan, yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard this.
Oh, you have to.
I've heard this song. I know the song
yeah.
Radar
Yeah.
Love, but I've
And-
never. Dude, that's one of those weird things, right? Like, I've
you
never
know that-
thought, oh, let me hear. It's sort of like you turned me on to Billy Thorpe and that Children of the Sun, right?
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
it's like, but I've never been like, oh, well, let me hear. What else does Billy Thorpe have
Right.
to offer? But
Yeah.
this is interesting because, dude, that song is like. Boom, that bass line, you know what I mean? When you hear that
but-
bass line come in.
But if you see, the wild thing is...
The wild thing is how that record is printed. The backside's upside down from the front side.
Well, it should be a double album sleeve so you can fold it out.
Yeah.
This was actually my first girlfriend in the 4th grade.
Oh yeah. That,
I think Mom,
is that when you got that? You were in 4th grade?
not this copy here.
No, I know that. Yes, no, but I'm saying you got a copy of that album.
I got this copy. I would have been in 7th grade
When you bought that record.
Yeah, this one.
Because
Yeah.
what year did that come out?
This came out in '73. But,
Oh wow.
If you want to hear,
And you were born in 48 though, so how are you?
yeah. But the song that's amazing out there is "Katie's Going Bad." That song, and sometime grab that. I wish.
Oh no, I will.
wish
I'm
we
gonna.
did-
I know we can't listen to it, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to make a playlist, and I'll post it down in the comments. I'm gonna have Eric cater. I got a Spotify, so I'm gonna make a Spotify playlist of all the tracks that Eric wants me to put on there from the stuff he's brought today.
Yeah,
This
it's
is on the Polydor Records.
yeah.
This is from Germany.
Well, see that cover actually got banned.
Yeah.
And then they had another printing of it, but no, that album.
Is Golden Earring from Germany?
That album was no, I forgot even where I was saying now. That album was one that was recognized just for that song, but man, there's so many.
The other tracks.
So many
I mean, I'm
other
really
tracks.
interested to find out what Susie Lunacy, in quotations, mental rock is. I kind of.
I don't know if you're
And
ready.
there's only 7 songs on.
Oh, they're
6
long.
songs.
Yeah, they're long.
Yeah, they're all. One of them's 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
Every song they did, there's 2 10-minute songs, 2 4.5-minute songs, a 6.5er, and a 6. That's a lot of. That's. Yeah.
But see,
That's
if I didn't have older,
Yeah, they have to be from overseas, right?
yes,
Yeah, because they're from the Netherlands, is where the production company's at.
right.
New Day Glow.
But yeah,
That's
that was the hit breakthrough in the United States. Was Radar Love.
So you've
And-
had this specific copy since you were in 7th grade.
yeah.
So there were certain ones you didn't get rid of.
Yes. No. I held on
To a small selection.
Right. Right.
That's wild. Man, but dude. That fucking song though, dude.
What?
Radar Love, dude. Just that song alone, just that. I mean, now I can hear it. That just one of my favorite things in like music. When I was younger, people used to like. I didn't know how to convey it to people, but like when I was a teenager, I had gotten into the Beatles early on, right? So, but I liked early Beatles. I liked doo-wop Beatles. I didn't give a shit about late Beatles, but I was really into Paul McCartney and the Wings.
Oh yeah.
Because I liked how like just all of a sudden, boom, we're going twice as fast, and now we're gonna cut it down to even slower than like the tempo changes in them. Is like very storyteller-esque to me.
Yeah.
But that's that's one of the things I like about that. But also, it's like a song about driving, you know,
Oh, yeah.
and you like hear that song when that song came on, and you're driving down the highway. dude, like I couldn't imagine it's 1984, you're in high school, you had a mullet. You probably
My
were like
cougar.
you were in your cougar, like I'm sure that song came on and you're just like, "Bleh."
Oh yeah.
Crank
Oh,
it
yeah.
on my reverberated
I had my
Jensen.
I had my Alphasonic amp with my Altec Lansing 6x9s.
Yeah.
And-
I don't think Altec makes car audio anymore.
No.
I used to have
but-
Leonard Skinner's, or not, like Kansas. I had Kansas's.
Oh, they're
the,
big.
remember those
speakers.
giant ass speakers I
Yeah,
had?
Yeah.
I kind of wish I still had those, but it was one of those things that's like,
That would have been the ultimate garage band setup.
yeah, it's
Just
like,
to
but where
have-
do you fucking put these things?
Yeah.
Yeah, if I had, playing music, that'd have been
Come on
cool.
over and play.
I used to
Wow.
get so stoned. I'd go outside at mom and dad's, get stoned, and I'd go back inside. And I had that power amp, and I had this like shitty record player that was like a suitcase one that had its own speakers. I had rigged up this thing like I always do, which just used what I had.
Right.
But man, they had like a reverb knob on those, and I would crank that reverb knob, and I'd crank them speakers up, and I would listen to Ted Nugent,
Well, of course
Double
you
Live
did.
Gonzo. Dude, and there's like this one part, man, where it's like it's already recorded at like an outdoor thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
so
so it's
it's
like
even-
already sounds like that. Then you put it through those. When we were high, it was just like, oh, dude.
Yeah.
But that album, Double Live Gonzo, is like, I know people hate Ted Nugent, but man, my dad. That's one of the things. Like my dad listened to a lot of different kind of music,
Mhm.
and you know my dad pretty well, but like. He turned me on to the Stray Cats. You know what I mean? Like he listened to new wave and shit, which is like, if knowing my dad now, people would be like, what? You know, this RC car track dude that makes moonshine was listening to new wave tapes. You know,
Right.
But dude, he would play. We had a cassette that was like, one side was the first Nugent album, and then this was Ted Nugent, and the other side was Free for All.
Mhm.
And I mean, dude, we would listen to that front to back. It would, in the S10, it would automatically play the other side, and dude, we could put that in and just, that was it.
Yeah.
And that's, I know that's where my love of music probably started, was like watching my dad like fucking freak out and like play the drums on the steering wheel when like
Sure.
Stormtrooper, dude. Still to this day, like that's another one of them songs. Like you hear it, and it's like, fuck, man.
Right. Yeah, it's not one that you just jam all the time, but man, it's the classic.
No, you put on it, but you can, again, it's one of those albums, right? Like Free for All and Ted Nugent. You can put those on, and it's like, boom. But then later, you get, like, it's one of those situations where I like, had my mind blown, where it's like, yo, like, that dude was in this other band, you
Mhm.
know? Oh, shit, the Amboy Dukes, what is this?
Right.
And then I've always liked that, like going backwards. Like that's something I'll do. Like I would look up this band and be like, okay, who was in this band? Like, what other
Well, we
band
did that
were
with
they in?
that Mountain out. With,
Right. That when you had that album and you showed it to me, I was like, oh, that's the dude from Mountain. And you were
Right.
like, what? I was like, that's for
Yeah.
sure the lead singer of Mountain.
And that is the great thing still about vinyl now. I mean, yeah, you can pay whatever price you want, but you can still just take a risk, and you could buy a book for its cover.
Right. And you
And-
can do the same thing with that.
And I go over to my mom's in Mexico, and she turned me onto this thrift store that they have a section. She looks for me, but all of their records are $1.
Oh, yeah.
I got Black Sabbath's first album for $1.
Right.
And it's in
probably
good
in
shape.
perfect condition.
Not perfect, but yeah.
Well, I'm still buying, even when I go to Sister Anne's. Shout out not yet a sponsor, but soon. Sister Anne's Records and Coffee. That's my jam. That's my spot. And I work an extra hour. I've made it to where I flag an extra hour at the shop every week so I can go buy me a record. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But I bought that Brown Spirit album that I played you, and that was it. Frank that owns the record store, you know, Frank and Jim were both like, we have no idea what it was. We read the description. It's from Australia, and we figured it's probably cool. And so I bought it, and I just, on a whim, I was like, well, I'm buying it based off the cover and what
Sure.
it said. And I gave it to Frank. I said, open it up and put it on. And we listened to it, and it's like, oh, my God, this is amazing.
That's my funnest way of gambling. I don't
yeah.
I don't buy lottery tickets. I'll buy a record.
Right.
And even if the cover art is
It's cool.
it's worth $1, $2, you know.
But also, you find some stuff, like when I found that Crusaders 10-inch that day.
Oh,
it's
my
like,
God.
I can't even get that on CD, right? And it's like, it's on Spotify, but here again, here's some weird Australian band that Eric turned me on to. I walk in the record store, and for $10, there's their 10-inch record that came out one time in 1996.
Yeah.
And nobody else. To me, it's like, oh my God. And everybody else is like, what are you freaking out about? I'm like,
Right.
oh man, you don't even know what you got here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well.
No, and then
What we got next?
So
Well,
that was like
that's like
my,
early on something your brother turns you on
right.
to.
That it's always stuck with me, and I still put that album on. I still put it on. But like so, then as I got older and got a little bit more into stuff, and especially it was really funny. You were talking about your dad with Stray Cats, and I got into this mode, especially with my parents, because my mom, I mean, she's 87. The very first concert I ever went to was with my mom, and that was Merle Haggard. And that was in Wheeling, West Virginia. And I would have been, at that time, I was like 5, 6 years old. I mean, I was little. But I remember we had a old Eldorado, and it had an 8-track in it. And Mom was so excited to see this show, and she was just enjoying the moment. And she said, "If Merle Haggard asked me to run away with him, I'm doing it." And I was like, oh my God, this man might break up our family. I'm like, you just stay away from my mom. But no, I mean, so the great thing is I learned a lot about. Do I need to do that magic trick?
No, I get it. Keep going.
Wait, let me try. I learned a lot about older stuff, and my mom and dad actually. There was one time they loved to dance, and they went to this party, and they had a dance off, and it would be more 50s, 60s kind of sock hop music that they loved, and they won, and it was a double album, a Dick Clark double album, and they didn't want it or nothing, and they gave it to me.
So it'd been like an American Bandstand compilation?
Yes, exactly. And I didn't know anything about that. I would have been, once again, probably 5th grade, somewhere around there. And I had my first turntable, and I had a little place down in the basement, and my mind was opened up to a lot of 50 stuff then. But then as I got older, I was talking about the whole rockabilly craze. And I realized that, okay, are these guys trying to sound, when I first heard it, are these guys trying to sound like the 50s? Are they trying to do their own thing? I really didn't get it. So I didn't, and started looking back, and like Jerry Lee Lewis and stuff like that. And then I really was looking at what I felt was the rockabilly album that I probably was the most moved by, that I wanted to get up and move, but I always loved Johnny Burnett.
Yeah.
And the first time I ever heard Honey Hussy, I was just like, wow, that is something that just the way they were playing that guitar. You know, I don't play instruments, but just to pick up on some of the riffs and how they're making a guitar sound in 56 that you just wouldn't normally hear, you know. But those guys, to me, they were the era of, you know, you think of Stray Cats, and nothing wrong with it at all, but it was more of an image in my viewpoint as far as marketing, but those guys back in the day in the 50s, they're singing they're switchblades, baseball bats, and beer. As far as that was an era that was
This band, if you listen to rockabilly at all,
right,
then you are listening to someone
right,
who has mimicked this band, because
Yeah.
they are the only people to me
But-
that like they created I feel like this band created what is rockabilly. You know what I mean?
But what's
Like,
wild though is you take that song, and that's not their song. That
Right.
song's from Joe Turner from 3 years prior,
right.
and it sounds completely differently. you
Yeah.
know?
They were the first people to kind of take music, and then probably that became, Elvis was singing songs that he didn't write, right? But like,
Yeah, he was taking
but
even
this was
gospel
rock
stuff.
and roll.
Oh yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
No, it was-
there was rock and roll music, but this was like,
That made
You know?
that made church going ladies stop in their tracks.
Oh,
and
right.
Were scared, But
I'm not a big dude. Elvis is all right, but like, also like, I don't get it.
right,
Like, I never did get it. I never got the obsession all these people have with Elvis, when there was like, you could listen to this or you could listen to Eddie Cochran.
right.
Because I don't consider Eddie Cochran rockabilly. You know what I mean? Because he didn't have that. That wasn't his vibe.
Mhm.
But I mean, name another rockabilly band from the '50s that was like,
Right. Well,
Bill Haley, but
Sure.
like, don't have the grittiness.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, this guy's voice is just crazy. And you can hear it. Like, you can hear, it's almost like in music when you can hear like suffrage. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
you can hear that come out, like desperation almost. Like, we got to figure out some way that this is what we're going to do. You know
Sure.
what I mean?
No,
This is great. This is a great thing. Like, if you are watching this and you've never listened to Johnny Burnett, or if you've never listened to rockabilly music, you should definitely
well,
do that.
If you've never listened to rockabilly, I mean,
What
you're
are
on
you
the wrong
doing?
channel.
Well, I was like
This-
Shay.
I don't have any REO
Shay,
Speedway.
the way Shay always described rockabilly always cracked me up when he'd start making that bass noise with his mouth.
Oh, yeah.
But it really all is like. There's a couple. I'm trying to think. Gene Vincent.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? But still, it's just not.
Right. Well, they were edgy. I mean, those guys.
Gene Vincent was more. I feel like he was produced. You know what I mean?
Right.
These guys were not. This
No.
was like very raw. Like, stick them in there, like early like Crickets. You know what I mean? Buddy Holly. That was
Sure.
pretty raw music. But then over time it became.
Well, it's
very
kind of like you were
produced.
saying as far as Elvis. You take that era, and I think of Elvis, and what would his counter be? Jerry Lee Lewis at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, he was edgy. To me, as far as Elvis, he was more of an entertainer in appearance
Yeah.
and everything. He could sing, that type of thing. That's like saying,
Get it.
that's like saying, as far as Liberace, do you listen to not you, but do
No.
you listen to
Yeah.
Liberace for his music?
Or for the
Is it for the show?
flamboyant show?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a Vegas show,
Yeah.
That's
For sure.
just it. But
He's
but
the
no,
Ray
that
Newton.
was for rockabilly for the era that I was getting into the earlier cars and stuff, because
Yeah.
that all kind of goes together. Man, when like I say, the first time I really heard that album, I was like, wow, it's raw.
Yeah.
It's not a real produced type thing. Now, oddly enough, I'll get into that a little bit more as I go on. But
It's weird to think, like, you've seen so many, like, how many different times has rockabilly come back around in your lifetime? Like, 2 or 3, because there was, like, the
Yeah.
late 70s it had a resurgence into the 80s, then in the early 90s, and then it faded away, then it came back again in the early 2000s. So one might think, like, we're probably due for
another
another resurgence.
well, and then I mean, of course, everything went psychobilly or whatever it
right.
grew
Oh, yeah,
legs.
psychobilly.
I got real excited because I was listening to stuff that my mom and dad were into, early, I mean, mid 50s
Right.
stuff, but that they grew up with. But I was always bummed because it wasn't hi-fi.
Right.
It didn't have the depth. It didn't have a good sound
It's
to
always
it.
lo-fi
And so then
shit.
when rockabilly did start reemerging, it was like, wow, it's being recorded with better equipment.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like this. This will probably sound better than a year ago. Huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It sounds way better.
So
I'm gonna hit that
but
bass
so-
on. I'm gonna hit that low bass on our voices.
Did you get a little Barry?
Whoa.
We got the Barry White
Yeah.
mic. But no, I mean that's where I got back into it as far as the resurgence. But that rockabilly, that was
Yeah, So when I was little, I used to dig, like. Because what year did you move to Kansas City?
the very end of 2022. 2023.
2023.
All right, yeah.
You
was
were here
early this
6 months
year.
ago?
It was earlier this year. No, 20 years ago. I'm
20
sorry.
years ago.
Yeah.
So, 2000.
2003.
Okay. Oh, so you moved here basically right before we met each other then.
Pretty close.
Yeah. So when I was even before then, like Oldies 95, like on the radio,
Mhm.
they used to only play. They played 50s and early 60s music when I was a little kid. So they only went to like 64, 65. So when I was little, I used to only listen to oldies. Then my parents' lived down on 18th Street here. And Daryl Richardson, he still lives there. His wife Judy passed away, I think, last year. But Daryl was a union guy, like little short Italian dude, you know, never graduated high school, was in the union, lived in KCK, but he had like THX surround sound in his living room and shit, right? It's like one of those many times in my life where I'm like, how the hell does this all work? You know what I mean? But Daryl had all this, dude, he had Laserdisc. I remember he turned me on to good audio because he had Laserdisc and he had Back to the Future. He'd be like, Tyler, sit in the middle of the room. And he would turn the volume up and it was like set up when he got the THX, like when Marty drives the car towards Doc and he like blasts back in time, like it was like, whoo, and it hit you where you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
But they would be playing cards or whatever the hell they were doing, getting drunk. Who knows what my parents, they could have been smoking dope for all I know. You know what I mean? But I was in there digging through Daryl's Time Life CD collections, and he had the 50s and 60s. Then he made me cassettes of all of it, and that was my shit, dude. And the first concert I ever went to was Oldies 95 used to have these Summerfest concerts at Sandstone. So it's right by the house, you know what I mean?
Right.
But you had to fucking figure out where they would tell you after they set up at lunchtime for like an hour, and you'd have to go to that grocery store or whatever, and they'd be there for a remote. Remember they used to do the remotes, and you could get free tickets. So I fucking begged my parents one year, finally, like, please take me. And dude, I can't remember. I'd have to go back and look it up. But I know that Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons were there. The Turtles were there. And like, dude, who knows? But that's where like it all, like garage rock.
Would you have had Sean on there?
Dude, I'm pretty sure because I was obsessed with Sean
I know
Anna
you
when I
were.
was a kid, dude.
I know you
I
were.
fucking loved Sean. You talk about a show, baby.
Yeah.
But every year we'd go to that. They'd take me. And it was so cool. And then I'm 15 years old, and I finally am allowed to go do things on my own, and I buy tickets to go see the Misfits. And opening for the Misfits was Guar, dude. And that's where I probably told this story before, where we didn't have enough tickets. the lead singer Guar was out there, rest in peace, and Dr. Chud, who was the drummer for the Misfits, and Slimminster Hyman, who was in Guar. They were all out front, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, fuck, this guy was gonna leave us, and like, they're like, what's wrong? And they put me on the guest list. He then the lead singer of Guar, he puts me on the guest list +4 or 3. So me and all my friends could get in. Takes my 2 tickets, scalps them for $300, gives me the money, and then we go inside and buy a bunch of merch with it. But man, to loosely know who Guar was from like watching Empire Records,
Yeah.
to being like, yo, this dude's got a giant alien penis that's shooting fake blood on me. They're like cutting off like. Dude, they cut off Donald Trump's head on that tour, I think. They cut off the president's head, George Bush. Like, it was crazy. And then, like, I have photos. I got them at Mom and Dad's. I'll grab them to show you. But I need to scan those and put them on Instagram or something. But, dude, coincidentally, like, later on, this dude who was working security became my sister's first husband and shit. That was Pat's dad. But, like, I have these photos of everybody's just, like, drenched in blood, and people are wearing white shirts, but everybody's just covered in blood, and the Misfits are on stage, and it's like, whoa, this is wild, dude.
Yeah.
That I was just turned 15, and we came back, and my parents looked at us, and were like, what the hell, dude? So where you been?
Yeah.
Like, well, we went to see Guar, man.
I strive for those feelings again.
Yeah.
You know, just where you're moved. And luckily, this year, seen some decent shows at my
Yeah.
age. It's like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm stoked to see Viagra Boys
Oh,
live.
dude, I can't.
At this point, you
I
know.
mean, I can't wait to see him.
Well, you want to see my next
Yeah, what do you got next?
journey? This sucks because like I said, I wore my sunglasses over here, so I can't see with them on.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, that whole album was
Yeah.
It was so wild when I was a little boy, and the first time I had heard Lowrider. I mean, that is probably one of the more iconic songs as far as an album that I picked, but I didn't know who War was at the time.
Right.
And I would ask people, and I'd ask like my brother's friends because they were older, and I'm like, who sings that song Lowrider? And they're like, Cheech and Chong. And I'm like, Cheech and Chong? So I go into the record store, and they're like, the Cheech and Chong albums are over there, you know. And I'm like, none of these
Have Lowrider on.
yeah, none of these. I go, I don't. And yeah, you had no research back then.
Yeah.
You didn't, and then when I found it, and then to listen to the old album, it opened my whole mind up. I mean, I started listening to a little more Santana, stuff
Right.
of that nature, and to
It's more, it's hard to classify this, but about the only way I can explain it to people is this is it would be what I consider world music, because it's not soul music.
no.
It's not.
The only thing I can think of every time I think of War is Inner City Summertime.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's
Dude, I mean,
everybody,
you already know.
Well, yeah.
You already know how I feel about this
Sure.
band. This is one of the few bands that I've gone, like, War, Steppenwolf, Van Morrison. I've everything that they've, like, everything they've done, I got it on
Mhm.
vinyl. But man, this ain't my War album. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
this is not. If you told me, like, yo, what's the War album? Like, this one is tight. They're all tight.
Right.
But the All Day Music is that's the one
Oh,
I
sure,
would
sure.
pull out. You know
that
what I
was
mean?
that was the first War album
that you got,
that
right?
I had owned.
But I get it too, because it's great, and it is actually their most mainstreamly successful album,
Mhm.
which would be why you did get it. Because at the
Mhm.
time, like, and this is later too. I don't remember what year this came out. 75, 73 maybe. There's a
But
bunch of
yeah, I
different
mean,
copyrights.
just as far as you know,
Have you had this that long?
No, no.
Okay,
I
because
just
it
got
had
the,
the 81276.
Yeah, no. I
Maybe this did
I-
come out in 76.
I got that. I got that in a record store. That was one that I got
75
rid of.
on
But-
Far Out Productions.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, and I mean, just to then when you realize how many people are in that band, and to sit and that's why, like I said, as far as Santana, that whole era, it was just like, wow, these are like families playing. It's not four guys and a lead singer, two guitars, and a drum.
Well, dude, when they started out, who'd they have? Eric Burden.
Well, yeah.
Eric Burden and War, All Out War.
Sure.
They just re-released all those as a box set, and I should have got it. I haven't got it yet. I want to get that.
Yeah.
But man, dude, it's like so many of these, like, just, these are those, you can put on just about any War song, dude, and get in the car
Oh, sure.
and go cruise.
Sure.
Dude.
You're gonna find the
Just-
right people.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
gonna find the right
instantly.
people.
I mean, dude, Lonnie Jordan, man, that guy. Have you ever seen War?
No.
Dude, I saw War with Junior's mom.
Yeah.
I was out there visiting. Went out there to Wyoming to see Junior, and while I was there, War was playing at the Pepsi Center. Maybe it was when I was in school. I think. No, it would have been after Junior was born because her mom had her Chevy Cobalt, that white car she had. So it was after Delina had Big D had moved back to Wyoming, and I was out there visiting, and we went to the Pepsi Center down in downtown Denver. And they had that outdoor amphitheater in the parking lot, dude. And we saw War play, and it was the War that was like, it was Lonnie, like one other guy from War, and the rest of the people were. Now all the original members of War are the original Lowrider band.
Right.
But, dude, probably one of the best concerts. There was like cholos with knee-high socks, like 50-year-old cholos with knee-high socks out there, like smoking the tiniest joints, just dancing with themselves. Like, it was like nobody even thought about fighting at that concert.
No,
You know what I mean?
no.
Like, that was the cool part. Like,
Yeah,
there was no beef.
That's what I mean. It's a whole family thing.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as the music, as far as to me, all I think of is Good Time Summer. I mean,
Well, and then some of these have been covered, but is Lowrider probably your favorite War song?
Well, I mean,
You might not have a favorite. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's hard to say.
that's also there's an awful lot depending on what mood you're in.
Dude, yeah. Well, because I like that weird shit too. My favorite Stones song is that "Fool to Cry" song. That's like from like the later album, but then like War had that album that came out in the '80s that had that Outlaw song about the Outlaw Motorcycle Club. That's pretty good. But dude, Slipping into Darkness, you see, if you've ever watched Blood In, Blood Out, or not Blood In, Blood Out, but American Me. There's a scene in American Me where they shot call some shit from prison, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And there's just this, and you just see this El Camino rolling down the street. It's fucking, dude, it's so good.
Yeah.
But that's just it. It's right there. It makes me, not only does that make me think about cars, it makes me think about movies. You know what I mean? 'Cause
Sure.
you see it, like even Lowrider, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Dazed and Confused.
Sure.
They play Lowrider and Dazed and Confused, and that was like, for me, I mean, we got that, I like your CD collection, I had that in VHS tapes. I was underground indie film, going to Suncoast Video to the independent section every week, spending any little nickel I could trying to buy a VHS tape to watch, But it was like, it all, like I was telling you, like it all is connected,
Sure.
Art and cars and music. But man, you can't.
Yeah, when you can intertwine those,
You go
Those
into a
three-
Hispanic house, an old people's Hispanic house, they're gonna have a War album and a Freddie Fender record.
Sure
Dude.
they are.
Guaranteed.
Sure, I believe me, I got a lot of both of those
Yeah.
too. But yeah, so that was always just iconic for me. Like I said, all I think of is cruising in summertime.
Right.
I mean, that was
Dude, and that image is iconic. The face, the cover
Yeah.
of this record is so. Why can't we be friends?
Right.
Like that kind of says it all. And then Smash Mouth covered that.
Yeah.
In like '98 when I was in high school,
Right.
junior high, some year, whatever. I was around then. I was alive. Smash Mouth, God,
Yeah, that would have been a different time in my life.
dude, that was like post grunge where all the bands were just like trying to rip off like early internet, and there's like the race to see who could rip off the cool shit first before getting caught. You know what I mean? And everybody was just knocking off shit from the '60s.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else you got?
Well, buddy, of course, if it wasn't, you know that you'll recognize this one.
Oh, it's
It's the Beatles' White Up. No, it's not.
the Beatles' White Out. Oh shit!
Well, yes. As far as punk, my my go-to band would always
Yeah.
be the Mummies.
The Mummies.
I mean, I've got a lot of bootleg stuff of theirs on CD, but those guys, their whole attitude, their whole process as far as punk. I mean, you know, they put out one studio album
Yeah,
and they basically nixed it because
it sounded too good,
it sounded
right?
too good. It sounded
Is this the one
too...
that I got you?
Yeah, you got me
Yeah.
that one. Yeah.
Now this is a band, the Mummies. Aren't they from? Are they from the Midwest?
No, they're west.
West Coast. This is a band for sure I had no idea about, and it was one of those things. Not even like a CD that was a burnt disc that all written on it was the Mummies, and I was like, "What in the hell is this?" He's like, "You don't know this?" And then he played it for me. And it's
Just look up Mummies. They do a lot of cover stuff, but in a punk atmosphere. But Red Cobra #9.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that song is just moving.
Well, dude, but like this is the band that like inspired me, you know, when playing music, that it was like, okay, you gotta have that. Like they did the whole deal, right? They had they dressed up like mummies. They were like exciting. They like moved around.
Oh, they had sarcastic humor. They didn't give a fuck about anybody. Anybody heckled them. They were like a comedian and just beat them down. I mean, made them cry.
Yeah.
Almost, but no, they had so much energy as far as just on stage. A bummer was. Do you know the band Here Come the Mummies?
No, I know. Yes, I know. Yes, Eric was duped.
I was. I was so excited.
There's this band called Here Come the Mummies, which basically ripped their shtick off, and they like play like jazzy funk soul music, but
Scottish,
like yeah,
yeah.
but the way it had to be by design, because the Mummies had a bit of a resurgence going on for a while, like in popularity, like whenever the internet, like once music became opened up, like you could find out about these things that you didn't, like this was like a, you know, like there's no such thing as a local band anymore, right? Like back in the day, you used to have to, somebody would have to show you something from a different state, like punk bands, if they happened to come through your town or something. But you couldn't just look it up and be like, oh, what is this? Like the Smut Peddlers. They played here, but at the time, I couldn't just go online and be like, well, let me hear the Smut Peddlers. You know, it was before Jackass, you know, so nobody knew who that was. But, man, Eric bought these tickets thinking it was the Mummies, and he goes, it's this other band. He was so pissed.
I was like, what was it? Paul Kester said, find a fucking brick and throw it through their window of their van. But yeah, I was totally I felt duped. I mean,
Oh, dude, it's a
who
weird
calls
thing because you
themselves
know it's
Here
like
Come the
there's
Mummies?
there's one thing to like take something and be inspired by it, right? Like, you know, maybe these guys were probably like way into Sam the Sham, and then they made their own thing out of it,
Oh,
right?
most definitely.
For sure, right? But like to just start a band and be like, we're all gonna dress like mummies,
Right.
and we're gonna call it "Here Come the Mummies," and we're gonna use this exact font. Like,
Right.
it's either one of the dudes from this band, or it's just somebody that they had to have known about this band.
Yeah. It's
It's probably some shitty old liberal punk rocker. That's the type of thing they would do.
I heard they're coming out with another band. It's called Here Come the Rolling Stones.
Here come the Rolling Stones.
But no,
Yeah.
but I mean, as far as my punk scene, if I had a go-to band that I had to pick one, I'm probably biggest Mummies fan. Just
Yeah, you really
overall.
weren't. Even when we first met, you weren't like. I mean, you like. I mean, that's one thing. Like, no matter if you've said you sometimes you have say buck wild old man things to me, and like.
Yeah.
But also, I know like, I know you, and I know like it's like people might like. People will talk about you and be like, that guy's kind of, you know, I don't know about him. I'm like, oh, well, Eric's like pretty open-minded. They're like, what? And I'm like, well, man, if you like listen to the music this dude listened to, it's almost impossible for him to be like closed-minded. And I'm like, he's listening to
Right.
the Idols and fucking
Right.
Amel and the Sniffers. Like, these aren't bands for people that like, you know. Aaron Lewis fans aren't listening.
Right.
Todd Thompson isn't listening to the Idols. You know what I
No.
mean? Like, and
No.
Todd's not closed-minded either.
No.
But it's like you weren't heavy punk rock, really. You
no,
were,
well, you like I said, that's that era, the true punk era.
yeah,
I was in North Dakota.
right.
And so it was, but see, and that's another thing that was so wild because I went to college at SIU, but it was like when I was in high school, like to listen to stuff like the Doors. Oh, I hated the Doors.
Yeah,
And then
I don't like the Doors either, really.
no, but I mean I hated them.
Yeah,
And then it was actually the guy next door to me, my freshman year. He had a pretty wide array taste of music, and like he introduced me to Elvis Costello. That's where I had learned.
Elvis Costello is tight.
Sure, but I mean that's where But then he turned me on to some other Doors stuff that I didn't know about,
Right.
and it was like I respected
Other than the radio stuff.
Right,
Because you were
right.
stuck with the radio hits.
Right. As far as his poetic ability and stuff. So,
There's a book of like just the songs written in poem form, like he originally wrote them. It's way cooler than any Doors song. Like, that's way cooler. Do you remember when one time we were out of town in Dewey, Oklahoma, and we went to this little bitty tiny biker straight up cut and shoot biker bar. Eric, I have my band at the time. Eric proceeds to beat so many people's ass at pool in this fucking bar that the bartender came out from behind the bar and Eric beat him.
he put his glove on.
He put on a glove, and then like people were showing up. They were calling people to come beat Eric, and Eric was just like, we were on one. We'd been drinking all day. We were like there for a car show.
I was
like
in a zone.
we're zonked out on shark weed. And then Cause signs me up to sing the Doors karaoke.
Yes.
And as soon as I got done, I just remember Eric walking up to me and like, I think maybe it's time to go.
Yeah, it was definitely a storyline where you walk into the little bar, you don't know anybody, and the next thing you know,
Yeah.
it's tighter and tighter in around
Yeah,
you.
we went to a lot of weird towns. Like, a lot of those car shows were in weird places so why did we always find we never went to a normal bar? It was always, I heard about this place where like dangerous people go. And it's like, okay, let's go there.
Because it's more exciting. You know, the jukebox wasn't going to be playing.
No, that karaoke
Journey.
was fun.
Yeah.
Those people looked at me like, what in the hell is wrong with this guy? I had that Pee Wee Herman doll that I was carrying
Oh, my
around
God.
with me.
He was everywhere. He
Mhm.
was everywhere. Yeah.
Jesus,
All right.
the
Well,
Doors.
and then
You got one more.
I got one more.
We got one
And
more
this
record.
is- I decided to bring. I've gone through almost 6
I
decades.
saw this one upstairs, but I already
Yeah.
knew you were bringing this.
But yeah, as far as modern day and laid back country picker and honey bun, went and saw them just 3 weeks ago, and it's really funny. Jim Doyle,
Mm-hmm.
I turned him on to laid back country picker, and it's just a duo, husband and wife. They're out of the Appalachians in Kentucky, but they've got their own sound.
Mm-hmm.
But he described them the best because they turned him on to him, and he said, "Dude, they are the White Stripes of country music."
Yeah.
And I was like, "That has a niche. I mean, that has a way of describing it." But I stumbled across them on the internet on somebody's Instagram page.
Yeah, they went semi-viral for like a week. They had that clip of them where it's like, he's crazy as hell looking in a cowboy hat with an electric
Yeah, he's got
guitar,
these
big ass
huge
mutton chops. And then his wife has got curlers in her hair and wearing like a moo like a
yeah.
country grandma.
She doesn't talk.
Playing the drums.
She does. She will not talk. I mean, she. There's interviews. If you go down a rabbit hole
on
looking at him, any interview she won't talk at all. It's like Siegfried and Roy, or not Siegfried and Roy. What's the magicians out of Vegas? The one that doesn't talk and the big guy.
Penn and
Penn and
Teller.
Teller. There we go. 57-year-old moment creeping up on me.
I like this part where it says, thanks to Richie Hall for the amplification, the 1970s, black t-shirts and jeans, and Uncle Ted's honey. Like, what the hell?
Oh man, they have a whole
Ooh, and this is a newer record, so when we get into the new vinyl,
yeah.
sometimes you get into...
They have a whole subculture of videos out too. I mean, like the rise of his fame and his manager, but it's all staged. It's all
Right.
It's all
It's like a show.
yeah. Oh God, but
This
man,
is like
they're
Mikey
they're-
Campbell style.
It is for those of you that knew any of the Kansas City crowd. I go laid back country picker is a mixture between Mikey Campbell and Tim Kearns. If both of them were meshed together to sing.
I just
But-
saw Tim Kearns not long ago.
Really?
Yeah. Did you
Hey.
see about... Oh, you probably don't know. I'll tell you about that later.
All right.
Well, John Paul. Do you know about John Paul getting hit on a scooter yesterday?
No.
Oh, yeah, he got hit on a scooter. From Big Iron.
Yeah.
He's not dead, but he's in the hospital.
Oh.
But hopefully
Well,
he'll get better.
that's a bummer.
Yeah.
That's a bummer.
Probably not should have brought that up. Hey, let me bring the mood down real low here.
Yeah.
No, Eric
okay,
did
okay,
just...
here. Let me get my George Jones album out now.
Yeah.
But
But hey, that's a musician from town that, man, we've watched
Oh,
him
yeah.
play for... Shit, I've watched him play my entire lifetime of going to shows since I was about 15.
yeah.
Buddy Lush Phenomenon, Big Iron.
Buddy Lush Phenomenon. Wow, I gotta dig out some of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Dude, Kansas City is always... There's a kind of a good music scene right now, but there's like... Man. We're just
I
like
think
lacking, like... We lost our central... It's like how the art scene, like... When they price everybody out at like all the cool fucking things are out of the art district now. All the cool places, right?
Mhm.
All the lowbrow shit's gone. Same thing. Now that they've killed Westport totally from being music venues, it's like we lost that central meeting point to where it's like you got to travel to Lee Summit or north of the river. There's a spot, or over here or over there, and it's like, fuck. Then half these shows I want to go to, they're in basements of houses, and I'm like, no thanks, dude. Like when you go to a basement show and everybody looks at you because you're the old, like I'm like old enough to be people's parents. You know, I'm sitting with a high schooler upstairs, and you know, like these kids are like, "Can I smoke out here?" I'm like, "I don't give a fuck, idiot. Like, do whatever you want to do, man." I thought you were a punk rocker. Why are you asking me?
Now you know how I felt back when you
when
were
I
that
started.
guy.
Oh, dude.
And you were giving me
I don't
shit.
even know how you. How did you? I mean, dude. I don't. You're a strong son of a bitch, man. Because like I was crazy.
Yeah.
I'm still crazy. But back then I was doing crazy things all the time. And like for you to like A, put up with my shit for that many years, but B, like always have my back, and like now these kids come hanging around me, I'm like, oh, you're a bunch of pussies. Get away from me. Like what are you doing?
Yeah, you've almost gotten to the get off my lawn.
Oh, I'm there. I'm on get off my lawn status.
Yeah.
I had to catch myself. The neighbors' kids were playing in my yard the other day, and I was about to go out there, and I was like, I don't give a shit. I don't own this house.
Are these?
These were $5 off Facebook Marketplace, so that's why they don't work that good.
Well, no, I was wondering if they were if you had gotten off a porn set, because the way they just keep. Oh.
Yeah, I don't. That one. This one. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with.
They're oh.
Well, it'll pull the table over.
All right. They're a little intimidating.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with that one and why it's so. I need to dig into it. Like maybe there's something you got to do. But this one's like, you know, it stays right where you put it.
Right on.
So I don't know.
Alrighty, buddy.
Well, yeah.
There's my
There's
five choices.
Eric's 5 choices
for
of
2023.
Now there is one that's missing that I thought. You know what I thought you were gonna bring?
What's that?
Norman Greenbaum.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because you've always told me about how much Spirit in the Sky was like insane for me. That song, dude.
Now one other little quick story. Norman Greenbaum. My mother's parents, my grandparents, they were. If you quit rubbing it, it won't do that. They were very hardcore Virginia Southern Baptists.
Yeah.
Hardcore religious. And my grandmother, my granny Lamb, Lamb was her last name, she heard Spirit in the Sky, and I was playing it, and it was rock and roll.
Yeah.
It was devil's music. And I said, no, listen to it, Granny. I said, he's singing about Christ, you know, and everything. And it was just like she did not want to believe that, you know. I mean, no different than Johnny Burnett and them singing the lyrics of that song, you know, they're actually pretty brutal.
Yeah.
But she was just like, oh my
But it
God.
doesn't. But the sound of it made them go,
Right.
"Oh, this is good, wholesome."
Right, because
music.
it sounded so psychedelic and so druggy,
Dude,
hippie.
that's probably the most famous fuzz tone ever in rock and roll.
Oh, think about it. Yeah. Yeah, that is a foundation in the tone of fuzz.
We'll have to do one episode where we just talk about all the bands that like you thought they were black until you got the album.
Yeah.
So if as a child I would have swore that Spencer Davis Group was black guys.
Yeah.
But they're the whitest looking dudes you ever seen.
I never.
All
right, we wrapping this up?
Yeah, we'll wrap it up.
All right.
Eric came back a different man off that pee, but yeah, anyways. I don't remember what I was talking about. Oh, Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
But that was it. Like, everybody wanted to listen to, like, Dude, just even now, it's music that I consider the worst. Korn. Like, I remember when everybody was listening to Nirvana, and I was just like, yeah, dude, it kind of sucks. Like, don't get it. Still don't get it. To this day, like, I mean, some of it's alright. Like, that Unplugged album's kind of cool, but, like, the rest of that, I'm really just like, I don't get this shit, man.
What is
This fucking, like...
they must have seen that
They already asked.
devil music.
Yeah, I saw that devil music. All right, well, this has been the 1-year anniversary rock and roll edition of Black Magic TV. Eric, thanks for
Probably
joining
a little
me.
more roll than it was rock.
Yeah, we were rolling.
But yeah, no, thank you. Like I said, that was a fun challenge. We could go next week and it'll change again. But
Yeah, just something like I just wanted to mix it up. Like I said, music is such a pivotal part for a pivotal part of both of our lives. I thought that would be a cool subject matter to dive into.
listen to them,
Listen to all of them.
all of them.
I'm gonna have Eric tell me what tracks to put, and we'll make a Spotify playlist. I'll put the link to that down in the comments. If you haven't already, subscribe. Hit me up. Tell me how much it sucks. You know. And get Black Moon Revival. Come to the car show September 3rd. I'll be at Greaserama. Probably filming. I don't know. I wrecked the van, so I got to fix it. I got parts today.
What?
The Lochnar has been wrecked. I was involved in a T-bone collision. But
you were not eating a T-bone.
no, I wasn't eating a T-bone. The Lochnar has 2 smoked doors, and it needs another new fender and a front door. But it definitely totaled out a brand new car. So we'll see that. I'm on Eric and I are going to have to get married so we can get a better deal on our insurance if we keep getting in accidents. But like, subscribe, follow, do all the things, and we'll see you next time.